If there's one thing that stands out with modern Hollywood products is that every single one of them contain a form of diversity, a certain condition to represent one culture or another, and it's one of the main reasons why we're so familiar with foreign culture without having any physical connection to it. And if you still don't get it by now, diversity is generally a good thing. But studios like Disney has proven us that diversity isn't the right way to go, seeing as every time they made a movie with diversity, the internet has never received it well. And as much as I completely disagree with how Hollywood does diversity, mainstream outlets has never been clear on what's the solution or what's the right way to go. So instead of just being a usual internet homies and causing divisive agony, keep calm and let's focus. Now, I have covered a similar topic before and I have stated about completely fictional characters, so just to be precise, there's no side effect when it comes to race swapping of fictional characters, any way you want to. But with Disney, obviously the issue stems far from that. We're talking about fairy tales, which comes from folklore, all stories from places that sheds light on issues about society and how we should extinguish it. To say that this is complicated is like saying politics is easy. Yeah, so listen. If you want to adapt a folklore with diversity, the first thing you want to pay attention is obviously pay respect to the story. So anything from the environment the story took place, the main character's appearance or origin, the moral of the story, none of that shouldn't be changed with some exception. Like the Little Mermaid's Ariel could be black because it's possible to have African slaves or immigrants since the story took place in the 18th century Denmark, or probably Caribbeans. I will give the benefit of the doubt since the environment is a bit similar. However, one thing to know is the moral of the story. In the old cartoon, the prince saving Ariel, which in turn proven that humans and mermaids can live side by side in harmony. But in the movie, it has never been the case because Ariel saved the day, so the moral of the story is women. This is where I cross the line. The main point of folklore around the world, generally speaking, is to give moral or lessons. For example, here in Indonesia, there's a folklore called Malin Kundang, about a boy named Malin Kundang who misbehaved to his mother, so he got cursed by God and turned into a rock. Lessons here is just be a good boy, never break the neck of your parents. Could you imagine if Disney turned Malin Kundang into a horrific girl boss named something like Sri Chodong, and instead of turning into a rock for misbehaving to his or her mother, she didn't and actually started parading God himself? I mean, Disney wouldn't do that, right?
Live action Snow White looks terrible.
You said you were bringing a modern edge to it on stage. What do you mean by that?
I just mean that it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince.
The dwarves in the movie have been replaced with regular-sized people to not be offensive. However, many have pointed out that this change has simply taken away the opportunity to hire 7 actors with dwarfism. And considering this is Disney's most iconic animated film, people in the comments had a lot to say. Like Walt Disney is rolling over in his grave, and they're taking love out of a classic love story.
If you don't jump down there, you're gay.
Bet.
Okay, with Snow White, it's I guess fine with Rachel Zegler or whatever, I don't know how you pronounce it, but because she's not really dark skinned. But what in the fuck with the 7 dwarfs, man? The second thing to consider is the background parts of the story. So anything that isn't in the forefront, such as the side characters and amongst other things. This, you can change it to whatever you want it to be. The side characters could be black like the dwarfs because, wait. Anyway, this is what Disney should have done. Let's move on. Now onto the juiciest of juicy part, the Mustafa side of the drama, and that is docu-series. Now I think we can all agree that documentary or docu-series is the most accurate representation when it comes to Hollywood trying to tell about true stories about people, empires, countries, or anything that's ever happened at some point in history, because most true events are filled with very unknown information and documentaries usually filled with discussion to fill that unknown, rather in biopic or straight up true stories in the big screen, where most of the time some moments just felt too cartoonish that you can actually feel that it was made up. So big W for docu-series. But then, of course, you have this.
I imagine her to have curly hair like me and a similar skin color.
I remember my grandmother saying to me, I don't care what they tell you in school, Cleopatra was black.
Now I haven't watched Queen Cleopatra, so it's definitely arrogant for me to assume that this show is the definition of historical inaccuracy, but according to several credible history channels, it's very inaccurate, especially with the appearance of Cleopatra, who's supposed to have a very Macedonian look instead of, literally black.
As when you go and look at the the Ptolemaic dynasty and you look at all the different relations between the rulers, you have a tendency to notice that there was a lot of brother-sister relations. These two brothers, who were the brothers of Cleopatra VII, which that is the Cleopatra that we're talking about here. She was their sister and also wife. Mind you, Cleopatra VII's grandmother was a concubine, so there's a possibility of it being a little bit different, but the likelihood of it being someone who, especially after the course of 2 additional generations of interbreeding between siblings, would look like this is insultingly low.
And also the fact that Cleopatra was kind of evil. I mean, I'm not a history guy, but apparently she was seducing a lot of people so she could get what she wanted. That's as far as I'm aware. The point is, she is not the type of person you should look up to. I completely understand the point that the filmmaker is trying to portray. Yes, that means including the producer Jada Pinkett Smith. Even though one of the most influential persons in the world are Africans, the culture of Africans is still underappreciated, and even as today, not many people are aware of it. With that being said, you have to be sane to know that this is just pure whitewashing. There are thousands of underrepresented cultures around the world, and African culture is one of them. But instead of bastardizing history of Africans, why not just show a real story of real African heroes with real cultures and history like Omar ibn Said or Usman dan Fodio or Fatima al-Fihri or Amir Abdul Qadir. Oh, I see. You don't want to make docu-series about them because their diversity is and as always be the very thing that unites us all. But as Optimus Prime said it best,
But like all great power, some wanted it for good, others for evil.
and even though, again, I sympathize even with Hollywood remaking the folklore of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs into brown sugar and the 7 cosplayers from the 21st century, I'm sure everyone has their intention, but the higher-ups always has something behind their sleeves. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, then leave a like and comment what you may disagree on this video. I'm sure I might have got things wrong because a lot of things in this video is pure research, so do correct me. If you want to support the channel, then subscribe, and peace.
Thank you.